Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Wyndham Raymond Board of Directors meeting for June 5th, 2019. It is 6:30 p.m. and we are in the Wyndham Town Council chambers. Mr. Prince?
Kate Brooks.
Here.
Sarah Colby. Jamie Cummins.
Here.
Ron Gilliam. Marge Cavoni.
Here.
Pete Pencil. Here. Ann Kenny.
Here.
Kate Olivier. Let's see, Scott McLean. Here.
We will all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda, Mr. Prince? Okay. We have an opportunity for public input now. Seeing no public, could I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible expulsion of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056B.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? The motion carries. We are back from executive session. Could I have a motion, please?
I move that the board determines the following: that the student's actions were deliberately disobedient, that the removal of the student is necessary for the peace and usefulness of the school, that based on these facts, the board hereby expels the student effective immediately for an indefinite period of time, and that the superintendent notify the student and his or her parents of this action in writing with a copy of these written findings of fact and conclusions. If the student is expelled for an indefinite period of time, a re-entry plan will be prepared by the superintendent in consultation with the student and his or her family. The student's parents and student have the right to request readmission pursuant to law.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're going to take a short break while we get the Eagle Scouts to come in. We're ready. Okay, thank you. We're back from a short break, and I would like to introduce the Eagle Scout projects for this summer. So, can you guys come up here? Yeah, you get your own chairs. Big time.
We are very scary.
Okay, why don't you introduce yourselves for people who didn't know you when you were in first grade?
Okay, for all the people who didn't know me when I was in first grade, my name's Declan Danzig. I went to RES for kindergarten and first grade, and yeah.
Okay.
My name's Alec Brooks. My mom's a school teacher at Raymond Elementary School. I went to Raymond Elementary School, went to Jordan Small. I go to Greater Gloucester High School, I'm a sophomore there. I'm an Eagle Scout, part of Troop 800. I'm looking forward to doing this project and giving back to the community.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you.
You can move those mics down if you want, so you don't have to stand up.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess anything up. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I did notice, though, that you said you went to Raymond Elementary for kindergarten and first grade. Is that when you stopped?
Yeah.
Where did you go for second grade?
I went from there. I went to St. Bridget, and now I'm currently a sophomore at Cheverus.
Very good. We don't want anybody to think you only went.
Oh no, I didn't drop out.
You were home.
At that point, you were done.
Okay, who wants to go first to tell us what you're doing?
I'm gonna go first. You pass it out on fancy papers.
Put the mic down.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So my Eagle Scout project is to build a sandbox at the Raymond Elementary School, and it's going to be an 8x8 sandbox, and as you see on the photos on the front page is the location of where it's going to be. Also on the back page is the school map, which I told the board was very familiar with.
Yes.
So
Yes, we are.
I put the sandbox location also on the school map for you guys. And then in between that, we have this page, which is just the materials I'm going to be using to make my sandbox. I'm planning on making one 8x8 sandbox, and I'm also planning on making a sand table so it's going to be wheelchair accessible for people who need that. And then I've done some drawings and laid that all out as well.
You think your mom was a math teacher or something?
So how did you come up with this project? Like, how did you know that there was a need for this, or just walk us through that process a little bit?
Well, one of my friends who is in the Troop for Gray, who I go to high school with, did an Eagle Scout project, and he made sandboxes for the elementary school, or it was the Dunn School in Gray.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's a really neat idea. I was like, I grew up at RES, and there wasn't a sandbox there, so I started talking around and seeing if there was a chance I could build a project and make a sandbox at RES.
Nice.
That's great. Thanks. Mrs. Whips?
I wonder, have you considered animal usage? Like you're near the woods and at night, or over the summer, cats, or I don't know what's out in the woods, raccoons maybe, or...
Great question. Obviously, the sand table would not have that problem as it would be lifted off the ground.
Right.
But I mean, during the summer or when the sandbox is not being used, it could be tarped or such. Yeah.
Sure. Personally, I would love to see some kind of cover on that, because for student use, for example, if there were animals and whatever they do in sand, which I'm not going to get into, but I would be concerned about contamination for students coming in and then using the sandbox whenever. It could be the next day or whatever. I love the idea. I think this is a superb presentation. I'm just concerned about contamination and safety, illness for students.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Just to go along with that, I know the other one is on raised legs, but cats have a habit of jumping. So if you could kind of carry that cover over, so think about covering the one that's on the raised table one.
Yeah.
Because if anything, that would look probably very appealing to a cat.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Is this the only sandbox that we have in the district? Like, didn't we have one built over at primary school?
Is there one?
Is there one at primary school?
Yeah.
Primary school teacher?
Because I don't remember hearing about this when we did the one at the primary school. All these kids.
I don't know how many cats we're going to get at RES.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking about just cats.
We haven't seen the turkeys in months.
It's a concern I have. I'm just expressing it as well.
Okay, this is great. I'm just curious though, because I know some Eagle programs you have to deal with a mentor. Basically, do you have one? Is there? You're looking at me funny. Is there like an adult that is overseeing your program?
Yes. So my grandfather was a contractor and built houses for 35 years. So he's very well experienced with wood and this type of stuff. So he was going to be the mentor of this project.
Okay. Excellent. I think that's great. You are very lucky.
I am.
I mean, a grandfather that does that, you get a teacher sitting
well.
here. Really, you guys are right on. Yes.
Question. Are you paying for the material, the wood material?
So originally I was planning on buying pressure treated wood for the sandbox, but Mr. Hansen had expressed his concern that he wanted the wood to be all natural and he'd like it to be cedar. So he said that we would price it out as if it was all natural, and then we would price it out with the cedar. And he said that he would pay the difference.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So that's an appropriate.
So do you
Yeah.
mind if I ask?
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
So I like the idea. I actually really do like this idea. Here's my concern. 8 by 8 is small. Can we go bigger? I'm not joking. How many kids are in RES? For an 8 by I have a 12 by 12 deck, and I kill myself because my grill takes up half the deck, and then I got a small 4-person table. 8 by 8 is small, so I do have some concerns with 200 kids. It being a brand new sandbox, everybody's gonna want to play in it. Well, maybe 50% of the student population.
How many are out at a time though?
Comment?
Hi.
There.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody's here to be supportive.
Besides the sandbox, we are getting 2 pieces of equipment next year, so they're not all going to be at the sandbox because we're going to have the big Netscape climbing apparatus and a balance beam that they walk through, as well as the field being opening up. So the playground's going to be very different than what they have right now, so they're going to have many places to venture off to. We also have the new basketball court this year, so it's much bigger. So we did look at the size because I think it was originally going to be smaller, and we did extend it to be bigger. And I mean, just the only thing we might have is most of the kids out there in the morning, first thing in the morning, but typically there's not 220 kids outside because we have different recess times.
Right.
All right.
Okay. And we did talk about the cover. Our concern was just management of the cover and making sure children aren't getting hurt. Also, if there's a cover that's attached, and pinched fingers and things like that.
Thank you.
So some of it was a management of having a cover and what that would look like. Okay.
Oh no, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you though.
Marge. Wait, sorry.
I'll go next. It's fine. Okay.
Have you approached not for anybody, but Hancock Lumber or one of the facilities, Chick Lumber around, to see if they would be willing to donate? Because I know in the past, to some programs, they have donated the wood.
Right. That idea has crossed my mind. I have not ventured on my way yet to talk to them about that yet.
It's a good idea, though, huh?
It is.
We've always had Hammond Lumber. We have more than an adequate supply, I'm sure, of supplies.
Mrs. Keeney?
I just want to say thank you guys because I think this is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's clear you guys have worked with the school and worked with the folks to find out what's going to be best based on their recommendations and something that's going to be really useful for the students of RES. So I think it's cool. Thank you guys.
Go bigger.
Alright, so my name is Declan. I already said that. I'm planning on building a shed at RES due to the old one deteriorating and the lack of size. So if you guys look on the map, it's like, if you look at where the basketball court is, it's right like outside the paint. It's going to be like there's around that 45-degree angle right there. It's like right around there. It's going to be right outside the door, so it's like easily accessed to all the kids coming out the door from the cafeteria, I believe that room is. And then they just come in. The shed is right there for all the balls and things that are going to be stored. The shed is going to be 8 by 8 by 8 foot 5 inches. It's going to be raised about 4 inches off the ground, and on the inside of the shed, there's going to be management for, or organizational for the sleds, hooks for the jump ropes, and then a rack for the balls.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this replaces that plastic one that's there.
Yeah, the red one that's like already like on the wood chips. It's going to replace that one.
Yeah, perfect.
Good. Good. And it's going to have a door, a locking door? What?
It is there. We're putting a lock on it. I am not doing a prefab shed, but like I'm building, gonna get one of the shed kits. Due to if I were to design my own, there'd be a lot of steps and processes and things that you guys have to look at, that I'd have to get a structural engineer to look at.
Good call.
And if this shed were to be completed by this summer for the opening of the 2019-2020 school year, wouldn't have the time. So I'm doing it that way, and then the majority of the building is going to be building the shed from the directions, but then also all the customizable things that I'm building onto the inside of the shed to store everything.
May I suggest that there's a way to keep, I don't know how, there's a way to keep the door open in a locked position, as well as the way to keep it closed in a locked position. The reason I say that is it was always fun when people tried to go into the speaking as somebody who had recess duty out there, when they would go in there and close the door
And hide in the shed.
And yeah.
Sounds like fun.
But and also that they would get other people to go in the shed and close the door, and that's always fun to do.
Involuntary hiding.
Yes, involuntary hiding. I like that. So that, I mean, I'm just saying, Mrs. Peavy would be the one to make that determination. I'm just saying that.
And I'd figure something out to keep the door locked in an open position.
Or whatever, so that it's harder for short people to do. And
got it. Okay. I mean, I could just make the door handle like kind of.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. I'll do that.
How many people are going to build a shed?
So I'm not really sure yet. I know I'm planning on building it. There's just 2 weeks that the school offers where sports and things can't touch you. Me being involved with soccer, I have an avid schedule. So the first 2 weeks of August is when I'm planning on building it. That's generally when most people are coming back from vacation. So I'm not sure how many people exactly, but it'd be hopefully over the course of like a weekend or two. Me and him were planning on doing it at the same time. So we'd have like a big group of people there, and it'd just be easier for the both of us to do it both at the same time.
Cool.
So you said 6 by 8?
8 by 8.
8 by 8. Okay. On this, where it looks like a basketball court.
Yeah.
That's where it's going right next to the building.
Yeah. Here, I have a map right here. I don't have a map. It's gonna be going like right here, right around the corner. The door is right here.
Ah, okay. All right.
That might have been misleading.
No, that's all right. Fantastic.
So it's not gonna be with the basketball court.
Okay. And it is going to be out of the way of any plowing or any snow removal operations going on in the wintertime? Cool.
Is it going to be cat proof?
You had to get it in.
Sorry, there were so many more questions about the sandbox.
If a cat manages to jump 8 feet, I really feel like that isn't my fault.
I'm kind of curious what you guys think is happening in Raymond.
Yeah.
All the cat questions.
Well, there's other things too, but anyway. Any other questions or concerns or? Okay.
I'd just like to say thank you very much. It is deeply appreciated what you are contributing to the district. So thank you.
And I want to say I'm really proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we're in favor. We can't wait to see how it turns out. Yay.
If you decide to go 12 by 12, that's cool.
That happens to slip up and be bigger. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll need public comment for the Title I application. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Once a year, we come forward to the board to share with our community and to ask for any public input on the ESSA federal grants that we apply for each year. For the community to know, we are given federal funds in 3 different grant areas in order to help our learners. So we have put down our intended use of funds after working with a small team to figure out what best use these funds to help our students. So the first one is our Title I, which is supplementing instructional services. Our preliminary allocation this year is $416,335. That is a decrease over last year. We're losing about $11,000 this year in allocation. Required projects under here, we need to do a project for homeless, which we do, and 2 other projects, supplemental instruction for literacy and supplemental instruction for mathematics. And so the Title I grant funds are used to support the salaries and the benefits of our Title I teachers and our Title I ed techs. You have been extremely supportive in our programs, and these staff members provide the supplementary math and literacy supports for students in grades K to 5. So we are taking a decrease in those amounts, and I'm going to talk about how we can help that as I get further down here. Title II is teacher quality professional development, and right now our preliminary allocation is a little bit over $99,000. That's just a slight decrease of $445 from last year. So we have used a project in this grant for, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Howell, 15 years maybe, of a class reduction project, which Title II funds pays for the salary and benefits of one of the kindergarten teachers at Wyndham Primary School to reduce class sizes at the kindergarten level, and that's what it's traditionally used for. So any funds that are left over are used to support professional development materials for staff trainings in the area of mathematics and instructional literacy. And professional development is aligned to our district school and goals. So a new grant that we had started 2 years ago is Title IV, and that's for student support and academic enrichment. And this year our allocation is $40,811.61, and we got about $1,409 increase over last year. So in meeting with our group of teachers and staff members and administrators, in order to meet the needs of our students in Title I, this year we would like to transfer these funds in order to make up the cuts in the Title I allocation so that we can cover existing programs. And ESEA does allow us to transfer up to 100% into a different title. And so this is not the first year that we've lost money in Title I. We have been able to supplement with local funds. We're at a tipping point right now where by transferring these funds and then adding some additional local funds, we have in the budgeted about $25,000 out of local money for these services. We'll be able to cover the costs for next year. But of course, in any case, we would love to take anyone's feedback or answer any questions of our intended uses of our funds. So this year, the application, they're actually doing it a little bit differently. The Department of Education has assigned one person to each of the district's regions, and I've asked to host for us. So in a couple weeks, April Perkins from the DOE will come down. She'll review our application, give us any feedback to move the process along a little quicker than we've had in the past. It's a big overhaul and lots of numbers, and we're excited to have a face-to-face conversation. So I've already done a preliminary writing of the entire grant, waiting for our final allocation to be put in, and then we'll take the feedback from any public that we do receive and make any adjustments based on those needs. But this is what our plan is after looking at the allocations that we're going to be getting for the next school year. So. be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Question. Just one. Because you make this sound so simple, I know it's not. So could you get Cliff Notes, basically the process? I mean, how, like, when do you start this process? I mean, you know, it looks like, well, I went Monday, I started writing, and I'm all set to go.
Yeah, well, the application opened Monday, and I actually found it early, so I got a little jump on it. But because I've done this process now for 7 years, and I've had a great mentor to do this, I usually start about January, starting to look with Stacy of how our funds are doing, paying our ed tech, start thinking about what's our next role for next year to unroll, have multiple meetings with our principals, our Title I staff. My standards-based teachers are coming tomorrow to work. And so really trying to stay ahead of this to make sure that we're covering the needs for our district and also being able to be fiscally responsible to our community. So really using this money that we've been allocated to. We are seeing a decrease because our free and reduced numbers are going down. That's how it's based for funding, and unfortunately they're going down a little bit, which is reflecting going down here. But we know those services are working for kids. Our staff is completely dedicated to what they're doing. In fact, I have so many of them wanting to do some work this summer because they're working in Jolly Phonics, so they're working with guided reading, and they just want a new handle on the new program of mathematics. So we want to support them as much as we can. But this process kind of is like a year-long piece, and we have a little competition going with another district and who gets the application in first. And I've been told I will win. So I just have kind of preempting trying to get this done, because then once this is off my plate, I can do other things. So.
Scott?
Can you tell me how a decrease of $12,000 might impact Lisa?
This does not impact Lisa at all.
It doesn't?
No, because she is under IDA funds. These are Title I for regular classrooms.
Okay.
It doesn't help her at all.
Because, well, then I'm thrown off by the required district projects include homeless.
Homeless projects is under federal guidelines. We have to have a spot in our application for any students to provide educational services. We are very blessed in this district. We have a lot of people who take care of our students, and very rarely do we do that. It's also a very narrow grant where this is the first year that you can put in for transportation costs. Before you couldn't use it for them, but we've traditionally used these to buy a calculator for a student that is homeless that needs it for academic support. And so we have to have that piece in the grant as an open door, so that we have students who need something, we can get those materials to them so that they can learn with other students.
Okay. So I guess my next question that I think you may have just answered, supplemental instruction for mathematics, that will not impact us with the new curriculum moving forward.
No, this is for those people that will be teaching the support of the new curriculum that we're putting in. So the teachers that work with all of our students identified in Title I, they're all on board. They're all training. They're going to have access to everything to help support our students.
Okay.
So, and public comment, I should have mentioned, you are more than welcome to email me, reach out to my office. This will be posted on the website in the morning, so that if anybody in the community wants to reach out as well.
Mr. Howell, did you have something?
Just one other clarification for the public is that you don't have to be economically disadvantaged to access Title I services. The allocation that comes to the district is based on our free and reduced population, but any student who is struggling in mathematics or literacy can go through a process and receive supports and services under this. So again, to the federal portion, it really is determining how the money comes, but any student can access this.
Just as we had math and literacy night during the art show, if you happen to be there, those for all of our students in K-5, and we had a great turnout, and our standards-based teachers, which oversee our Title I staff, did an amazing job. Everyone loves to go to Mrs. Peavy because she has goldfish when you fish for your sight words.
You all set? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we have appointments, and I know that these are all replacements. Is that correct? Okay. Could I have a motion?
Sorry. I move to approve the following appointments for the 2019-2020 school year. Craig Hames, head of school, Katahdin, master's tags, salary of $88,298. Gail White, nurse for Wyndham Middle School, bachelor's 23, salary of $64,023. I apologize ahead of time. Lindsay Swizzik.
Sounds good.
I probably have it all wrong. I'm sorry. Health teacher for Wyndham Middle School, master's, $41,912. Noah Esty, social studies teacher, Wyndham High School, bachelor's, $38,373. Kenny Poulin, social studies teacher, Wyndham High School, master's, $51,362. Kate Hatfield, special education teacher, Wyndham Primary School, bachelor's, $44,923. Timothy Sear, occupational therapist, district, bachelor's, $69,273.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment?
Is that Noah Esty? Our Noah
Yes,
Esty?
it's
That's
our Noah
so
Esty.
cool. He was the scariest beast ever.
Yes. Okay, any board discussion?
I just want to say thank you for adding the years in there. That really does kind of help me mentally.
Okay, all those in favor? No opposed, the motion carries. Okay, next is renewal of administrator contracts. Could I have a motion, please?
I approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for 2019-2020 to the following administrators: Brian Karen, principal, Wyndham High School; Vanessa Michaud, assistant principal, Wyndham High School. Did I say that right?
Michaud,
Okay.
yep.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
Well, to see Mr. Cairns decide to stay with us another year. It's a good thing.
All those in favor? No opposed, the motion carries. So, can I have another motion?
I approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for 2019 through 2021 to the following administrators: Randolph Crockett, principal, Jordan Small Middle School and Raymond Elementary School; Kyle Rhodes, principal, Wyndham Primary School; Danielle Dunmini, principal, Manchester Elementary School; Andrew Patton, principal, Wyndham Middle School; Crystal Vargo Ward, assistant principal, Manchester Elementary School; Phil Rossetti, assistant principal, Wyndham High School; Elizabeth Peavy, assistant principal, Raymond Elementary School; Diana Jordan, assistant principal, Wyndham Primary School; and Kim McBride, assistant principal, Wyndham Middle School.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? No opposed? Okay, now we move on to lease purchase of school vans.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for 5 2017 Kia school vans through Emerson Chevrolet at $94,115 at 3.13% fixed, amortized over 4 years at an annual cost of $24,656.97. Should that be in the best interest of the district, pursuant to 20A MRSA subsection 4001-3 in the format presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Mr. Howell?
I just want to make a comment and actually a clarification for the board that all of the different motions that you are voting on tonight are all dependent upon the budget passing next Tuesday. Should the budget not pass on Tuesday and we need to come back and work on a budget, then we have an out in all of these contracts to not pursue those should we choose to actually take that option. But given our purchasing timeline and
Need to have it set, ready to go.
Correct.
Okay. Board discussion.
Just for clarification, 2 of these vans are for the special ed program that is going to be moving to RES, correct?
There's 2 additional vans for special education, part of which might include RAS, depending upon how all the transportation shakes out. And then some of the vans are replacements for ones that have reached the end of their useful life for the RSU.
Should I be reading this part about the competitive bidding, Emerson of Auburn?
Yes.
Yes.
So just to add on to the motion, through the competitive bidding, Emerson of Auburn, Maine, and Gorham Leasing are the low responsible bidders.
Okay. Well, it's already been moved and seconded. This was an addition. We've had board discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay. Can I have a motion about the lease purchase of school buses, please?
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for one 2020 IC school bus through Gorham Leasing at $91,250 at 3.15% fixed, amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $19,422.63. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant to 20A MRSA subsection 5401(15)C in the format presented. The school buses are competitively bid at the state of Maine level to assure school districts get the most competitive price. Through competitive bidding, DATCO Incorporated of New Britain, Connecticut is the low responsible bidder.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Nobody opposed. Motion carries. Can I have a motion, a second motion, please?
Want me to keep going?
Sure.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for one 2020 Thomas school bus through Gorham Leasing at $95,932 at 3.15% fixed, amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $20,419.20. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant to 20A MRSA subsection 5401(15)C in the format presented. Again, the school buses are competitively bid at the state of Maine level to assure the school districts get the most competitive price. Through competitive bidding, W.C. Cressy & Son, Incorporated of Kennebunk, Maine, is the low responsible bidder.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? Marge?
It isn't going to matter one way or the other, but I'm just curious because are they both similar buses because we're paying more for one and we're getting them at 2 different places?
So a couple things going on here is that one, RSU 14, like many other districts across the state of Maine, are in the process of purchasing buses, and so you have to go with what's available within the fleet. One's an international. The other one is a Thomas. The Thomas, which is the more expensive bus, has a radio package that will help us when it actually is here. And then, according to Mike, has the new Detroit DD5 engine, which is a new upgraded engine, diesel engine, which is supposed to be a cleaner burning, better fuel efficient, which will be in the Thomas bus. So moving forward in the future, I'm guessing you'll see more Allison DD5. But that's the difference in the prices.
Okay, thank you. Good. I was going to ask, what's the difference between the IC school bus and the Thomas? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for one 2019 Chevy minibus through Gorham Leasing at $57,958 at 3.15% fixed, amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $12,336.40. Should that be in the best interest of the district, pursuant to 20A MRSA subsection 5401(15)C in the format presented. Through the competitive bidding, W.C. Cressy & Son, Incorporated of Kennebunk, Maine, is the low responsible bidder.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? Marge?
Chris, I know you earlier on you gave the explanation of why we're buying minibus. So for the public's sake, could you just?
Sure. As the public may or may not remember if they were watching during our budget discussions, but with the influx in some of our special education transportation needs, and also specifically with some of our medically fragile students, a minibus with lift options was a better option for transporting students to school. So this is in response to making sure that those learners can make it to their educational program.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Nobody is opposed. Okay. Would anyone like to read about the purchase of Apple iPads?
Yeah, somebody else can have another.
Somebody else. Okay, go for it.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for K1 Apple iPads and accessories through Apple Financial Services at $95,358.52 at 2.68% interest amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $20,093.59. Should that be in the best interest of the district, pursuant to 20 MRSA subsection 5401-15C in the format presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
I went through all the Chris, could you tell us how many iPads we're buying this time? I'm sorry. Could you find out?
Lisa, do you remember for special ed how many? I want to say it was 100.
Yeah, we bought it with.
Yes, please.
So Marge, to answer your question, to give you an exact number, I'd have to talk to Mr. Hickey, but one of the things that we did was we looked at, so typically I buy the iPads for special ed students out of a different fund, and one of the things we're running into is that because the kids are spending so much time in the regular ed classroom now, with some of our push-in services, my iPads don't have the same operating system as the ones that the school is purchasing. So if you think, all I know is the word JAMP. I have no idea what it means, other than it comes with a whole host of apps, and so it was more cost efficient for us to purchase the extra iPads at the same bulk. So I think we were looking at trying to have them across the district as well, so that what was available for students at Wyndham Primary School was also available for students at RES in Manchester. So I think Chris is pretty close. It's close to 100.
Okay.
And JAMP is a program that allows you to push out your apps without actually having to touch the machine.
Right.
So I can put something on your computer without actually being there.
So right now it's a little archaic. So like if let's just say you had a reading app and Jenny had a different reading app in her classroom, and I was using under a current model, we purchase those through iTunes accounts, and it becomes really cumbersome because if Janny's my special ed teacher and she leaves the district, we've purchased that, and so I got to make sure that that gets off her iTunes account and onto somebody else's iTunes account, and so this is just a cleaner way to do it, and it allows broader access to
and
folks.
Also one point of service if there are difficulties.
Correct. And it makes Peter Austin really happy when
Yeah.
he can just do it remotely, because so much of them can be done remotely versus bringing the iPads in. So it does allow us that.
This is in line with the budget.
Yes, it was.
This is right out of the budget.
It was in Mr. Hickey's budget.
Yeah, I went through that. I couldn't find numbers.
Yeah, and I didn't bring my folder because I know you're going to ask me questions. But yes,
thank you.
I'll stick around.
All right. Any other board discussion? Okay, all those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Let's do this one.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for a Dell EMC storage area network to Gorham Leasing at $34,216.14 at 3.13% fixed, amortized over 4 years at an annual cost of $8,964.21. Should that be in the best interest of the district? Pursuant to 20-A MRSA subsection 5401-15C in the format presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? Shoot, I'm moving on this one. All those in favor? All those opposed? Nobody. Okay. I'll do this one. I'll make a motion to move forward with the installation and repairs of the hydronic system at Wyndham High School.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Mr. Hanson?
Not everybody knows what a hydronic system is. You know?
Good evening. I'm Bill Hanson, Director of Facilities. I hope that my summary memo that I sent made sense. The challenge we had at Wyndham High School is the current hydronic system has a lot of Victaulic type fittings that have been leaking. This past fall, we actually had the heating system off almost through October as we worked weekends and nights to fix this issue. So since that time, we've done a survey of the system. We've looked at the potential options for repairs. The proposal in front of you is to do something I think which will put us in a good place in the future. Install heat exchangers by the 5 rooftop units. 5 rooftop units have water that's in a coil that's on top of the roof. So it is exposed to potential freezing temperatures. That's why there's glycol water mix in our heating system. All of our other air handling and heating equipment is inside the building, so its exposure is much less. And they're also protected by sensors that shut off the outside air if the temperature gets too low. It's called a freestat. So this project would remove the glycol from 90% approximately of the system, so it would be straight water. And what that changes for us is 2 things. Our heat exchange rate increases because it's more efficient. Glycol in water has a lower heat transfer rate than straight water. The second thing is glycol in water likes to leak through any sort of an issue with any seal. It will leak, and trust me, you can take a piping system with water and won't leak at all, and pressure it to pretty much any pressure you want, and then you put it to glycol in water, it will start weeping all over the place. So that's a challenge. And the final thing with glycol in water is when we work on the system, we have to literally drain everything out to 55-gallon drums, make the repair, and put it back in. There are limited isolation valves. With most of the glycol out, we would have the ability to then drain the system in straight water, do the work, put it back in, so it's a lot less effort in that part. And the water is also less reactive with the seals and things on the valve. So I think it's our best bet. We did budget $100,000 to make repairs to the system as a starting point this year. The proposal that we have falls within that budget. It's at $87,000 for mechanical services, do the repairs. The balance of that between there and $100,000 will be spent to put in some additional isolation valves to improve future serviceability. And as from the survey, we're going to be replacing other targeted fittings that we found were potential for leaking. So it's we're trying to look at a hierarchy from kind of worst case scenario down to the least cost scenario. To go through and just do a wholesale change out, we're talking almost $250,000. And I would like to try this approach, monitor the situation. One of the things that will happen is our leaks will become less because the fluid is less apt to leak, and it's not as corrosive with the seal. So I think it's the best cost-effective option for us this time. It's also achievable in the 6-8 week window we have for the summer. So I don't see a downside to this. The upside is that all of our equipment that was being heated with the water glycol mix that's inside the building will now be heated directly with straight water, so it will become more efficient, so it should help reduce our heating costs.
Any board discussion?
Yeah, my question would be, so this is a good fix for now, but how long does this extend? Does it extend the useful life of this equipment? I mean,
based on what we saw last year, we probably replaced somewhere in the order of 35 to 40 of the 6-inch fittings that were leaking. So I would tell you now, I would not be confident with. In the summertime, in the springtime, I actually literally shut the heating system off because it seems to me to be really foolish to continue to circulate hot water in a building that we're trying to cool. And the most efficient boiler we can run is one that's off and no longer operating. So when you do that, you cool the system down. You can imagine steel pipes and these fittings, they grow and shrink based on temperature. So it's a system become challenging that way, and when you add the glycol to it, it's going to try to find that one weak point and then start leaking. So I think it's going to extend our useful life of it. I think our leaking problems will be reduced. I can't tell you to what extent, but I also tell you that our ability to work on it and fix on it will become tremendously easier once we have that situation. If we go ahead and do the targeted replacements of other areas of concern, put in additional isolation valves so we can isolate areas of the building and drain it out, we'll be much quicker to respond to the challenges. And then I think we evaluate it. We look at it, we do a survey this next spring, see where we are, and then we would go over to the next tier. And maybe we'll find after a year that the issue isn't there anymore. Because I could bring in valves and show you, but there is a chemical reaction that glycol makes with the valves that in the seats. They turn a bluish green color when they start leaking, and I know that Chris has seen it, but it is a downside to having that situation. Now, this is the only school that we have that has the water glycol mix in it. All other schools, including Manchester, which has rooftops, are all straight water.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked is obviously $100,000 now, but you said to replace the system would be $250.
To replace all of the fittings would be about $250,000, and the timing to get it done, I don't think I can get it done in the course of 6 weeks. So we'd be working nights and weekends into the beginning of school or in the beginning of spring. So at this point in time, I'm really even too late to start that project because I would have had to start it pretty much after April vacation. So, I'm very confident that's going to make a step change in our situation. And also make it much easier for us to service.
I think the other part with, because we've looked at replacing all of the fittings across the entire building, and the bid price we had was somewhere around $242,000 to do all the fittings. But again, we would be back at having a glycol system, which would be prone to leaks. And if you've ever walked Wyndham High School, look up on the ceiling, you'll see red spots. That would be in the ceiling. That's not mold. That's not water leaks. That's actually leaks coming from all the different fittings and or pressure points from the glycol mix. And so, in listening to some of the engineers and the hydronic engineers who are working on our boiler system, they were pretty confident that getting some of the glycol out of the system is actually going to help us out long term with some of the issues we were having with some of those fittings. The other thing that I heard in our boiler bids, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, is that it might also increase our efficiency on what we're going to be getting out of the heating fuel that we're using. And lastly, when they built Wyndham High School, the number of isolation points, much like at home, if you have a heating zone, you can turn that zone off. There are pretty limited options at Wyndham High School for turning some of the zones off that go off into the different places. And so that would address some of those issues as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that was used in the project was butterfly valves for isolation. And I don't know what a butterfly valve was, but basically it's a wafer that goes parallel to the flow and then perpendicular to shut it off. Well, they never really seal real well, so it's really hard for us to shut a butterfly valve and isolate a system and work on it and can keep the rest of the system operating. Whereas you take a ball valve or a gate valve, it's much more definite when it shuts and isolates. So we'll be looking at those opportunities to make the system easier to work on and service in the future as part of the summer's work.
Any other board discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay. I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with the recommended contractor, Mechanical Services of Portland, Maine, to install repairs to the Wyndham High School hydronic system in the amount of $100,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? We just have it. Any board discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I move forward to enter into contract with Mechanical Services of Portland, Maine, through Gorham Leasing in the amount of up to $130,000 to install 2 new boilers, a new water heater, and to complete the scope of work per RFP number 19-12.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment?
Okay, so as you may or may not be aware, the Jordan Small School has a 1987 Peerless boiler, a single boiler that heats that building. Your rule of thumb, cast iron boilers life range between 25 and 35 years. So if you do the math, you can see we're right there. And because it's a single boiler plant, that's a concern, is that there's not a second boiler should the first one fail. It is the only boiler. So we went through a design build bid process, and we looked at a rubric to decide the winner. Things we looked at were quality materials. We looked at life cycle cost based on efficiencies and the expected life of the boiler. Chris was part of that. I went some presentations. I also worked with Russ Martin, who's a PE, to review the bid prices. And what we ended up with, I was a little surprised. I thought we might be looking at condensing boilers, but because the building is really not designed for low return water temperature, the advantages of a condensing boiler don't really come into play. And the other challenge is condensing boilers generally have a shorter guideline life by 5 to 10 years in length. So when you look at a life cycle cost, it doesn't provide us with the return that you would with a conventional boiler. So this proposal puts in 2 Boderis boilers. They're cold start, which was a requirement, which means that they're designed to be shut off and they were not designed to leak. That is a requirement of the bid. Boderis probably is, I would argue, one of the best made cast iron boilers because they're made in Europe, where that's a requirement that boilers have to be shut off and go cold and come back again and run without an issue. So they're very efficient that way. Their ability, these boilers will be able to run both number 2 oil and propane, which in the future gives us the ability to do a couple things. We can negotiate the market on both, and I will tell you that thanks to Mr. Howe, we get an amazing price this year coming up on our number 2 oil. However, in the future, we can bid it both out. The other thing that works out nicely for us is that should there be an issue with the oil, the propane's there, and the burners that we're putting in actually. They're able to run all 3 fuels, so if natural gas ever were to come in the area, we could actually run natural gas on them as well. So it works out very nicely that way, that they're designed to run all the fuels that we would want to. If the board chooses to want to reduce the exposure of not having oil on the site, we could run all on propane. So we are putting in a condensing hot water heater because the water coming in for hot water usually is 60 degrees, and that works out very nicely for condensing. Generally, you want to see your temperature of your fluid coming in for condensing be somewhere below 100. So if the groundwater is coming 50 or 60, you can see that's going to work real well. And the way that a condensing appliance works is it takes the heat away from the condensing the moistures and the flue gases and puts that back into your fluid. And that's where your efficiency gains are. So you need to have the temperature low enough to do that, and it works real well for water. So there's a dedicated propane-fired hot water heater going in as part of this too, and that's the only appliance that generally runs in the summertime. So the boilers will sit cold all summer, which is great. Changes to the plant that will require, we are going to be need to put in a larger propane storage tank arrangement. The propane storage tank will feed a generator, the 2 boilers, and the kitchen equipment into it in small. So you'll see that there's we're looking for a lease payment on this that is at a level. I just remind the board that there is capital reserve money that's also supporting this project. Part of the capital reserve money is going to be used to install those propane tanks and make some minor repairs and changes to the boiler room. So the actual lease cost may be less than what's on there, but that's anticipated maximum.
Any board discussion? Okay, all those in favor? No opposed, the motion carries.
I did forget to tell you that we have 2 boilers in the situation, and based on the current load calculations, other than an extreme design day, any one of the boilers would handle the school load. So you really have a system that more matches what we have in all our other schools. So we'll have some nice redundancy.
I make a motion to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for 2 new boilers in the amount of $130,000 at 3.15% interest amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $27,670.60. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant to 20A MRSA subsection 501.15C in the format presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? No. Okay. Can I have a motion about the Wyndham High School boiler project?
I moved. What? Okay, I move forward to enter into contract with Mechanical Services of Portland, Maine in the amount of $240,267 to install 2 boilers and to complete the scope of work for RFP number 19-11.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? No opposed? Motion carries.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid through Gorham Leasing for 2 new boilers in the amount of $240,267 at 3.15% interest amortized over 5 years at an annual cost of $51,141.02. Should that be in the best interest of the district pursuant to 20 AMRSA, subsection 5401-15C, in the format presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? No opposed? The motion carries. Could I have a... Go ahead.
I move to approve moving forward with renovations to the library in the amount of $180,268 and enter into contract with Follett Construction, Brunswick, Maine.
This is for Wyndham Primary School. It's been moved and...
Second.
All those in... Oh, public comment? Do you want to say something?
Sure. So, this renovation is to create additional OT and PT space to support student services that we need in the primary school based on the incoming enrollment as well as the current needs. We've been working since late December, early January with PDT Architect to try to lay out various designs. We've looked at a number of designs trying to find a cost-effective approach to the solution. We've also partnered with Follett Construction. For those of you who may not be familiar, we've had 3 public bids that Follett was low bidder on, and they also delivered 3 projects on time and on budget for us. So we have an excellent track record with them of completing the work we've needed in the quality that really I think has been outstanding. And if you go through the Field Allen School, you'll really see some of the work that they've done over the course of this time, as well as the roof of the middle school. So this project does create space that we desperately need. So this is a negotiated contract with Follett, and the reason for that right now is that to put together the bid specs in the completion, to bid them out to a public bid, to get a bidder, and to get it done in the summertime, the time is just not physically there. We have a 6-week window. So working with Follett, we have a proven track record again with PDT, this has been a fast track project that really, I would tell you, should take us over a year to make happen, and we're really going to get this done in about 7 months. So I have every confidence that Follett will pull this through, and based on our track record, I feel that we will get great value from the project with them performing it.
Mr. Howell?
I also could speak to this, and I think it's important for the public to know, is that the board has a purchasing policy. It's policy VJ, which the board directs administrators that projects over $75,000 to go ahead and send that out to through a bid process. Through legal opinion, that is a directive that the board gives to administrators, but the board is not actually held to that same ceiling or threshold for purchases. And so the board can make the decision based upon construction conditions, timelines, other pieces to forego the policy and to go through the construction project and to award it to an organization or to a vendor who's going to be able to get the job done for us. And that is through board approval that you're allowing us to go ahead and do that. So I just make sure that everyone's clear about that. It is a perfectly legal thing to do.
Any board discussion? Marge?
Just so I understand, did you say it's going to take 7 months to do this?
we started in January, February, December timeframe. So 7 months gets us through to July, August. That's really what we're looking for, because you lose the 4th of July week is going to be gone. So what you'll find is that our summer goes by very quickly, and really our construction schedule is 6 weeks. But you have to back that up between state fire marshal permits and then drawings and building permits. It really, to me, would be if you had told me a year ago that this was what we're going to work on, I'd be very comfortable that we could go through the process of bidding out competitive. That probably, just the competitive bidding process itself, is probably about a 6 to 8 week window. Because I can tell you that we probably have spent just the boilers, probably we spent that much time in it. The 7 months would be from when we started the design stuff work to being complete and ready for school. I'm very confident this will be ready for school to start.
Great.
And it won't be like Field Allen last year, where it was 15 minutes before parent open house.
I was a little nervous.
Yeah.
So was I.
Any other board discussion? All those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries.
Oh, I do, I think. I move to approve moving forward with renovations to the nurses' space in the amount of $81,947 and enter into contract with Lillette Construction in Brunswick, Maine.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries.
I move to approve moving forward, updating school security in the amount of $20,325 and enter into contract with Lillette Construction, Brunswick, Maine.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Board discussion? Marge?
Could you just a brief as to what we're updating here?
Yeah, on this or the last two? Okay. So if you walk into the primary school right now and you come through the main entrance, if you turn to your right, you can continue to walk the entire length of the building. There is no barrier that would slow you down. And on weekends, if you come into the gym space, you have the free reign of that entire back wing of the building. So in the event that we had a situation occur that came into the front space, once someone is through that set of doors, they can walk pretty much through the entire first floor of the C house wing. So when we look at school security, it's something we identified quite a while back, is that a set of cross-quarter doors really needs to be placed in there that really provides a barrier. So if you walk through, if you go to your right, the doors would be there and they'd be closed. And then if you head towards a house, the doors would close in both of the house. So it really confines where you can move through the building. I know that this has been something we've had on a state fire marshal permit in line for 2 or 3 years. It made a lot of sense to do this installation while we're doing these other projects to get economies of scale and reduce the cost of mobilization. So that's why it's part of this. It's actually, the board isn't required to approve this level of project, but I want to make you aware of it and make it very public so that there wasn't any question as to what was going on. That's why it's on the agenda.
I didn't want the public to think that we were lacking in a regular security.
No, it's an improvement, and as we look at our buildings all the time, we are continuing to look and evaluate and update changes, and it's a moving target. We really need to keep an eye on these things, and I always welcome input from the board and from the public as to ways we can be safer. It is paramount importance for us, and things that we accepted 10 years ago are very different today, and they'll be different tomorrow. And we just, I feel very fortunate that the administrators embrace this work. They take it very seriously, and the board has supported it, and we've come a long ways. But it's not an endpoint journey; it's a continuous journey that we have to make.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Nobody. Motion carries. Okay. I make a motion to approve installing and moving a portable building located at Public Works for office space in the amount of $99,445.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Board discussion. Scott?
Isn't this building already moved?
The building right now is up at in Oxford at Schiavi. Okay. So scope of work that's going on is they're going to make some small changes to the inside of it, so we create 4 offices. It's designed to house 4 staff members, but also continue the larger space that used to be the driver's lounge is more of a larger meeting space for the school to use. So that's how it's being configured. So there's a cost associated with that. There's a cost associated with moving it. This cost that you see here is a summation of all the costs associated with setting the building up. We need to bring power to it. We need to bring heat to it, fire alarm, we're bringing access control and security to it. So the staff members that are in that building will have the same access and abilities to do the main building, putting the stairs back on and leveling and preparing the site. So the numbers quickly add up, and it always surprises me that something as simple as moving a building and putting it in place has quickly get to be a 6-figure project. But we looked at it real hard, and I know that Chris and I have talked about it. That's where we are. So again, I thought it was important that the board understand this is the cost of doing something like this, and I think it's going to provide. What we're doing is we're using some of the spaces these staff members were in before to support the student services. That's why we really need the space. There just is not room. And in addition to this, too, we are actually taking a space inside the building, and we're consolidating some more student services staff members in that space by putting in cubicles, providing them a very nice working space, but the density of people in that room is going to go up from about, I think it's 8 people there now. It's designed to set 12 in the future. This is not space where they're working with kids. It's their workspace to develop their stuff. So there's a lot to this. It's a lot of moving target, but it's a number that's big enough to make the board aware of it.
Marge? Just for the benefit of the public, could you tell us where it's going?
We are very limited in that site for places to put this portable. So it's going to go on the end of C House, nearest the parking lot and the track. So if you were to come to the new staff parking lot, which is C House and the other track, there's the corner of what is truly C House that doesn't have an entrance, and then there's the C House entrance, which really is on a different wing, but that's a whole other story. It's going to go in that area there. So when you come to the parking lot, you will see the portable building kind of as an extension of that single level wing that runs the back of the building in that location. It will not be connected. So staff members will have to walk out a ramp and then walk into the vestibule to get into primary school. It just isn't something that, I mean, this number would increase significantly if I was trying to connect it.
Scott? On that note, will there at least be somewhat of an awning or something like that to keep them from the outside elements?
Presently, right now, that building that Mike was in does not have that. There is it does have a dormer that comes up that prevents the rainwater from coming down, but there is not an awning over that. We could certainly look at adding that. That's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, I'm curious. How far of a walk are they going to have to go from one door to the next?
We have to be 25 feet away from between 10 and 25. We're working that detail out with the fire department, and then you're talking about a ramp that's going to be 30 feet long because you have a slope of 1 inch per foot.
Yeah.
So you're talking somewhere between 40 and 55 feet from one building to the other.
I'm just thinking in terms of trying to keep the snow clear during the wintertime, less slips and trips going from one door to another. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay.
I move to approve the first reading of grading and reporting policy.
Thank you, Mr. Henson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second.
Oh, good. It's been moved and seconded. Public comment. Board discussion. You all set to talk? Or do we need to do it?
We've done it.
Okay.
Good job.
All right. All those in favor? Whoops. Any opposed? No. Motion carries.
I move to approve the first reading of the revised graduation policy.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? No opposed. Okay, report of the secretary.
I move to approve the minutes of the May 1st, 2019 meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries.
I move to approve the minutes of the May 15th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
I have a question.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
Someone help me understand why. Did someone leave early? Because the adjournment, there are 7 in favor, but all of the other motions have 8. Did somebody leave early?
There may have been a restroom break.
I think there was a restroom break.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm good. I don't need to proceed any further.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay.
How do you remember this stuff?
Because it was him.
There's nothing else. No, it wasn't me, actually. There's nothing else in there. I don't know. To approve the minutes of, I move to approve the minutes of the May 22nd, 2019 meeting.
Second.
Any public comment? Any board discussion? I would like to have board discussion and say that Pete, you did a great job. That was really good.
Thank you.
And everybody did a good job, and the preparation that you.
Scott did an excellent job. Really.
Yeah, Scott, the seconding was fabulous. But the preparation from Mr. Howell and Mr. Prince was really terrific, and thank you very much. That's good. Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? Nobody. Okay, committee reports.
Finance just met prior to this meeting, so I don't have all of my notes together, but items that were on the agenda, the purchasing policy, and Mr. Howell alluded to that earlier, that there's some changes that are needed, and we are in the process of revising that just to because right now there's not really any exceptions in the policy for things that come up, such as the tight time frames for these construction projects. So the revised policy is intended to up some thresholds, dollar amount thresholds, to give some more flexibility, and then also to put in some provisions for certain times, certain circumstances in which we may need to not go out to competitive bid for certain circumstances, like Ms. Donald said. We also talked about the laptop insurance that is currently offered at the Manchester School. This was something that we talked about also in December, that we said that we would revisit. So we had a chance to look at some of the numbers in terms of the premiums that were being paid in and the claims that were being made. And really, I mean, the claims are so small. I mean, these are laptops that the students don't bring home with them. So it doesn't seem to make sense to have parents pay for insurance for things that could happen during the course of a normal school day. So that's something that we're looking to discontinue moving forward. Third item on the agenda was there's been an issue identified with the Maine State retirement, the PERS. It's an issue that dates back to 2004, 2005, and Mr. Howell's currently working with our legal advisors, and more to come on that later.
Did you have something you want to add?
I just wanted to add that the laptop insurance, Raymond Elementary has the exact same program with parents buying optional insurance. So it would be Raymond Elementary as well as Manchester School, really targeting insurance at the point where kids can bring laptops home, encouraging parents to take care of any unintended consequences of things that may happen when things are going back and forth to school.
Okay, and the last item that we discussed was the year-end spending. We put an operating budget in every year, and then throughout the course of the year, we keep track of how our spending is comparing to what was budgeted. And right now, we're at a pretty favorable variance. So there's still, roughly a month to go, but things are looking pretty positive there.
You don't say there's a month left to go to teachers, I'm telling you right now. Okay. Facilities?
Facilities met a couple weeks ago, and you basically heard everything here tonight.
Yeah.
We talked about.
I know we did.
So that in a nutshell,
Okay.
we just put all of our recommendations out there, and Bill just kind of reviewed them. So
Okay.
go back to the tapes.
Good. Marge, did you want to say something about any of your committees?
They're done. They've had Westbrook had their awards night, and of course the seniors will graduate at their senior schools. That was pretty cool. That's like a great thing. It is like unbelievable. If they show all the kids, it's a great night for the seniors. They have the slideshow. Exactly this. People would not believe that there are so many kids going to technical school. They're going to college. They continue one way or another. A lot of them, some are going in, very few in the military, but a lot of them are continuing their education one way or another, either technical school or college. They give out scholarships like you would not believe. There's a lot of grants. There's a lot of companies that give them out. It's so great. It's just so great for all of the kids there.
That's good.
And PATHS had their graduation. But it's funny, we used to go to the school, and now it's at was it Merrill? Merrill. It was at Merrill, so that's a little over my head now. But excellent. So they're doing great things there, and that's good. And we'll see what happens going forward, because we all know there's the vocational schools right now. All the technical schools in Maine are looking to get the funding re-looked at, and we all know that's kind of like an ongoing thing. So there's a big push as to how that's funded with the the way they're funded with the ED 279. So that's kind of it for the summer. And so in the fall, when we meet, we'll just have to have a new vice chair for Westbrook Regional Vocational School.
Okay.
We only do adult.
We had an adult ed meeting too, and just kind of recapped what they've done so far. They're prepping for next year, looking at what new courses they can offer, what sort of served them well so far. So that's about it.
Policy.
Thank you for approving graduation and grading reporting. It was a long haul, and Lisa and Christine, Chris and Sandy, Janny, myself and Kate spent a lot of time putting that together. Excuse me, and we're delighted that it's ready for the beginning of the school year and will be included in the student handbooks. Our next big push will be a field trip policy that we're pretty close to rolling out to you. We're going to do a workshop on that along with the volunteer policy. We have a Wyndham volunteer policy, but we don't have an RSU policy, and we do not have a RSU policy for field trips, amazingly. And those are pretty important policies moving forward. So we look forward to presenting those to you in the near future.
Okay. I have something from Kate Levier about the withdrawal committee. The next meeting will be on June 24th at 6 p.m. This is a public meeting. During this meeting, the committee will be asking for interested residents to participate on various withdrawal subcommittees. The following subcommittees will be formed: Staffing and Educational Program, Contracted Services, Technology, Operations, Policies and Procedures, Administration, Finance, and Governance. If someone is interested in being on a committee but is unable to attend on the 24th, I would encourage them to sign up on the Town of Raymond website. And that's from Kate Livier.
So this is June 24th?
June 24th is the meeting at 6 p.m. Okay, that's all I have for that. And next we have Board Roundtable. Now, we can save Board Roundtable for after Dr. Rhodes, if you'd like to. We can switch them. I don't think there's a
switch them.
Yeah, let's switch them. So, if you'd like to talk to us about the kindergarten class.
You got it. I made a few copies of I'll speak about. And before I get too much into that, I've got my chorus T-shirt on because the primary school chorus sang the national anthem for the Sea Dogs tonight. So that's where I just came from.
That's great.
They did an amazing job, and they had to be very patient because they had to wait over 5 minutes on the field to decide to start. I was very impressed by our third graders. So fun times. So yes, I'm here to talk about kindergarten and the enrollment. Right now, we have in our current kindergarten class 193 learners with 11 teachers, which comes out to a class size of approximately between 17 and 19 per class. And right now, we have registered for next year 217. We're rolling along with about the typical pace of how many we have at a certain time of year, up until about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and then we did the screening, and I guess that sparked an interest to come to Wyndham Primary School in the fall. So the number really has risen quickly here over the course of this time. So we're looking at I'd say at a minimum a class size of 217, because typically over the summer we do have move-ins. That's pretty common. The range tends to be somewhere between 10 and 20. I believe we've done a little better job these last couple of years on just getting the word out and using multiple messages around, please register your child and have them receive a screening date so that we can get that information before the school year starts. So I'm thinking that the number will be will be on the lower side and not the higher side. So if you look at a class size of 227, that's what I based the scenarios on. So with a scenario of continuing with 11 teachers, the 227 would result in a class size of between 19 to 21. And with 12 teachers, it would get it to about where it is this year, 18 to 19.
Still high.
Yeah.
Kindergarten.
So probably the other question is space. So through the budget development process, we had discussed as an administrative team about the fact that the Raymond Safe Self-Contained program may actually be at Wyndham Primary. So when Bill and I were discussing this with Chris and Lisa and others, I put together a plan for them to have a classroom space. So that's not what's going to happen. So that classroom space is now the space I would use for this additional classroom.
Good. Any questions?
I have a,
yeah.
So the increase in students, does this include, how many of the increase in students? We know from talking with Lisa that some of these students coming into the district are going to be special needs, and we've already added some additional supports for those students. So how much of this is I don't know what the word is, crossover of students?
This accounts for all the students, including any students that were child development service students. So students that were coming with an IEP, it's everyone. I had Marissa Washburn, our special ed site coordinator, meet with Tonda, who does all the registrations, our secretary in the office, and yesterday met just to make sure we did not have any duplicates or anyone left out. Yes. much.
Are any of those kindergarten students who will not be visiting or be part of a regular classroom? Are any of your 227, when you did a total number of students, in self-contained classrooms?
Yes, it does include. Always our goal though is to have them be as much as possible in the mainstream, and so that even if they don't start the year, with limited time in the mainstream, we do our best to include them as much as possible. So yeah, this number includes anyone registered as a kindergarten for the fall.
So yeah, just to follow up on that thought, and with what Marge was saying, I was just wondering if we're adding additional supports for some of these students.
Right.
Is a larger class size that less manageable? I mean, it seems like it would be a little bit more manageable if we had extra supports in those classrooms anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And that's where you see a little variance too. That I not a big variance, but of 18, 19, 19, 21, because I took into account that there are times when one or two learners may not be in those rooms for the majority of the time.
Okay.
The other piece I would say that is even our current class size, you've got the majority of the time more than one adult for a variety of reasons. So it could be because of the IEP. It could be because our academic support more often than not works within the classroom. And that's a regular ed support. Our foster grandparent program, many of those folks work in the kindergarten and first grade setting. And then this year AmeriCorps, which is, we've got our volunteers that also do some of that support work. So it's rare that there's only one adult now. So I think there's going to be more special education support. At the same time, though, this is over 3 houses of the Wyndham Primary School, and the only difference between these scenarios is really 11 teachers, 11 classroom spaces versus 12 classroom spaces. So it's not a large difference in regards to the fact there'll be more adults.
I would pose, though, that if you have more adults in the classroom also,
yes,
the classrooms are relatively small. And
I can speak to that from my own experience as a teacher. Yeah, sometimes it's the adults are managing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you have 3 adults or 4 adults and the needs of the children and 21, that seems to me that would be a lot of people.
It's a crowded room.
So I would be voting for the 12 teachers, 12 classrooms.
Yes. Kate.
Actually,
no, not me.
I'm on board with you. This is a question for Chris. So this would be coming out of contingency because this position is not on our budget, correct?
That's correct. This isn't on the budget, so it'll come out of a combination of contingency, any turnover savings that we have through the hiring process as we go through, and then working the best that we can with other funds as they become available to make it happen. But it is a need. It is a need to make it happen.
No question.
So we're not voting on this tonight.
No.
This will come back as like an appointment, or okay.
Okay, Marge. All right. I know we're talking about 12, which would make it 18 to 19, which I still think is pretty big considering.
Yeah,
you have
agree.
One adult in there with all those kids, because I know the intakes are assigned to a student, so they take the student wherever they have to go, when they have to go, etc. What would be your tipping point to even exceed this? You're planning on possibly, 227? What would be your tipping point that this would not work? I'm just looking ahead because I get really nervous because let me tell you, I went to the parade. I never saw so many little kids in my life. It makes me nervous.
But that's a good question. What would the tipping point be?
I would say 235, because the closer you get to 240, you're talking 20 per class. Yeah. We have one classroom of 19. Most of those learners are in the classroom most of the day this year.
That's a big class. That's big.
Certainly not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Definitely not ideal.
In line with that same question. If that was to happen, not that I want it to happen. If that was to happen before school started,
Right.
would you have another room? Would you have room for another class?
Right, for a 13th classroom.
Are you going to take it
I
with you?
I guess my mantra about space at primary is we figure it out. And so we have added a classroom before last minute. And for some of you who've been around for a while, we added a third grade when we had over 20 learners join us from the time school ended before the doors opened. So we did it. We would look at space, and as Bill talked a little bit earlier, he talked about how there was a space where it was eight people were in that space right now. It's going to be 12 next year. So we'd have to look at where are the adults and where can adults share more space to make more space. So if you wanted me to come up with a plan on what that would look like, I can do that. I was trying not to go there because it will just be tighter. This proposal would have been difficult without the fact that the Raymond self-contained program is going to be in Raymond, because I had planned like that could be a reality. I need to be planning for that. So I don't really want to think about another.
Well,
but I could.
Yeah, well, I think I would rather be prepared, and it's kind of like better to have and not need than need and not have. So I don't know how anybody else feels, but I would feel a lot more comfortable, even though I know you don't want to do it. I think it would be like worst case scenario. Okay. But I think it would be good to have a plan, because I would hate to start school and have to overburden classrooms with students, and I don't know what we do.
I also kind of hear your point, not that you're saying it out loud, but kindergarten is the wild card.
Yeah, I know.
The other grades we can predict pretty well. That was in my career the first time I've ever asked for another classroom being added, another grade besides kindergarten, when we did that third grade. That's just, I still can't figure out what happened. but there is that wild card factor with kindergarten.
I think remembering the third grade, I think it was third grade.
Yes, it was.
And that was challenging. And two things come to mind is first timing of making that decision, because I'm assuming if you add another, up to 13th classroom, you're going to be shifting some kids around. I'm assuming they're not just all going to go. Is that how that would work?
Well, we do have a little bit of time, because what we messaged at screening to incoming kindergarten families was that they would not receive their child's teacher's name until August.
Okay.
And our practice has been, and this is for one of the reasons why we're talking tonight, is so that we have a better sense of what that number is going to look like when school opens. So our practice has been the first week in August, we send that information out.
Well, the other thing that comes to mind is we'd have to hire another teacher.
Yes.
And that's late in the game.
True.
So those are all of the concerns. The later it gets, the more difficult the pool becomes as far as selection.
Right.
So just for me, I'd like to keep in mind time-wise, when would we pull the trigger for this? Because there's a couple other things that have to fall into place.
I would be more inclined to look for 13 now. And I'm just 20 children, 19 children, kindergarten kids, that's a lot. So I'm just, and a tipping point you said would be 240?
235, yeah, because 235 gets you to around 19 to 20 per class.
I'm just, that's something to consider.
So if we were to do 2 ballpark,
right?
How much?
A good idea.
You're looking around 140. You're looking around 140,000.
I'd be glad to work with some scenarios of what it would look like space-wise, and
I think that'd be probably
I think
smart.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
I could do that. The 12, I'm confident with. The 12, I mean, we're going to be really okay.
Okay.
I mean, they're all spaces that we've used for classrooms before. But 13, I'll give you a couple of options.
Right.
I think what's probably got me more worried than anything is long term.
Right.
What I mean,
Sure.
what is the capacity of this building?
We're at capacity.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we're at
So
capacity.
next year, say there's an additional 20 kindergartners on top of this number here, and then the year after there's an additional 20.
I think at that point we're looking at portables until a new middle school is built. A new middle school
alleviate some compaction.
It's going to increase capacity across the district. Correct.
I think it would be very difficult to get the public to approve portables when we have empty rooms up at RES. That's my one thought on that too.
I think, and that's something that facilities will be taking a look at. We've commissioned a capacity study for RES, and given the current configuration and programming needs at RES, the capacity of that building is not nearly of even what the design capacity was. And so I don't want to just quote numbers off the top of my head because I'm going to misquote, but it's not nearly the capacity of what we'd be taking at what we'd need in that case. And then there's also other transportation issues and other pieces that go along with it. So it's a complex, as all of you know, because you've been on the board for a long time, it's a complex issue.
Okay. Well, you would think.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome. Such good news. People want to come to Wyndham Primaries. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Wyndham. Welcome to my world, right?
Okay. Now we'll have the board roundtable. Anybody want? Scott, do you have anything to?
Wyndham Primary is full.
Okay.
I feel like we're all a little mush now.
Yeah.
Taunton is having their graduation tomorrow evening at the Grovey School in Durham, and that's always great. Those kids are always, as people know, it's a really exciting time for kids who were not sure that they would ever get to this point, so that'll be fine. It'll be fun.
I'm afraid I don't have anything. I really am
shocked.
Quite floored.
Sad.
But really excited that so many people like it here.
Yeah.
Well, I had an opportunity along with Janny and Marge and Sandy and Chris to attend the Top 10% dinner at St. Joseph's. And it is a wonderful event to acknowledge the accomplishments of students for their academic achievement, which is really what we're all about. And it's a lot of fun to see the kids' plans. Each kid fills out a little questionnaire, and Ryan reads their thanks and their plans for the future and where they're going to go to school or whatever their future plans are. And that's always really exciting to hear. So it was a very wonderful event.
Oh, you're going to go to me? Yeah, I don't know. It's a fun time of year. There's a lot going on. The kids are excited. School's getting wrapping up, and there's a lot of field trips going on. I had a chance to chaperone a field trip with my son's class. Miss Hopkins and Miss Stokes came in and presented on the project that they're doing with the veterans, and as part of that, we got the opportunity to go to the Coast Guard station in South Portland and speak to some active members of the Coast Guard and hear their stories and what interested them, what drew them to it, and what's made them stay for as long as they did. They get to look at some of the boats and find out a lot about it. It's really, really interesting, and I know that they've had some other field trips going to cemeteries and doing some cleaning of the headstones and meeting with some of the veterans, and there's going to be a culminating event on the 11th, which I'm excited to attend. So a lot of good things going on.
That's wonderful. would like to say that the Raymonds will be this Friday. The Raymonds is like the Oscars, but it's the Raymonds, and it's for the short films that the children produce, and they're my class won the first primary first grade RES. My class was the only one who entered in that year, but they won. And but anyway, there's red carpet at 6 o'clock, and they will have cameras and a red carpet, and the awards begin at 6:30, and it's a great time. Also, Mr. Prince and I went to the naturalization ceremony the Friday before Memorial Day, and it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. They do a wonderful job. So that's what I have, Mr. Prince.
Just like to announce and congratulate the class of 2019 who will be graduating this weekend, Sunday at 1:30, and really it's an exciting time of year for those graduates. Be safe, drive carefully. Look forward to seeing everybody on Sunday.
You're good? Okay. I want to thank the Booster Club. They went around putting plaques, lawn, not plaques, lawn, what do you call them, on stickers when you vote? Signs. Well, anyway, it's a better word. Signs and balloons. They went to all of the high school, the kids that are graduating this year, and they put them all out in their front yards. Lucky none of them were shot because there's whatever. But I want to thank them for doing that. The kids that I know really, really appreciated it. Thought it was a really cool idea, to come out of your house and there's a sign on your front lawn letting your whole neighborhood know you're graduating. So that was kind of cool. And the other thing that I want to say thank you, and I want to congratulate, because I know we have some folks retiring this year who've been with the district for quite a while. I know of one individual who has a new job, which is a promotion for her, so she's leaving the district, and she knows who she is. And I don't know if it's public, so I don't want to say it. Oh, it is? It's public?
Yeah, to Holly Wilson.
Oh, Holly Wilson, who we all love, and congratulations to her. I think it's going to be great for her. She's going to be assistant principal
of Lake Region High School.
And like I said, there are a few who've been here for like years that are retiring, and we just don't get that list or anything, which is kind of too bad that we don't, because it'd be nice to be able to, other than hearing it, send them something or whatever. But thank you.
Can I just say one last thing before because we spent all this money tonight, but we need everyone's help on Tuesday to actually have that money approved. So just a reminder to everyone that Tuesday is the second step of voting, and please make sure everyone has a chance to go to the polls. Wyndham High School as well as Jordan Small Middle School will be the polling places, and to go out and vote. This is your opportunity to weigh in on our ultimate policy document, which is our school budget.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session, please.
I move to approve going into executive session to discuss district office executive administrative contract for ensuing contract years pursuing to 1 MRSA subsection 4056A and not return to regular meeting.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? No opposed? Okay.